one nation,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See, that's what I was waiting for. I
I did it like 3 times. I don't know what it's doing.
Roll call, Michelle.
Jeremy McCord,
Here.
Bernie Paprad,
Here.
Travis Dunlap,
Present.
Aaron Adcock,
Here.
Angela Scott and Nicole Maroney are absent.
And
Oh, Roseanne Bozak.
approval of minutes July 10th, 2023. A motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call, Michelle.
Bernie Paprad,
Yes.
Travis Dunlap,
Yes.
Aaron Adcock,
Yes.
Jeremy McCord.
Yes. Communication bills and expenditures. And town code updates.
Second reading, I think, for what you had discussed last time will be this town council meeting.
Board of Officers Committee and staff.
Another.
I know you're not usually at this meeting, but if you have anything to add or anything you think of that outside of the site plan that we're about to have, you're more welcome to speak up.
Nothing at this time, Jeremy.
Thanks.
Sure.
You don't have anything to add?
I don't believe so.
I think we can do the whole business afterwards. We're just gonna jump to new business. Review of bond maintenance guarantees, letter of credit. Still think there's nothing down there unless I'm missing something. Yeah. Site plan review. How about surgeons?
Yeah, no,
Surgeons?
my name is Brian Lodowski with A1 Construction. It's Sergeson Auto, yeah, auto and truck repair.
Okay.
Did you kind of want me to start then?
Yeah, so if you want to explain the project to us,
Yeah, so we went in front of the BZA to get a special exception for an auto. Use, I don't know, this is, it wasn't necessarily a variance, I think it was just a special exception.
Okay.
Since an auto shop is a permitted use, in that zone, continued that we get the okay from the BZA. So did you guys get the plans or do you have anything?
I have some stuff. I think the terminology you're looking for is that it's a special, it's not a permitted use, but it is a special exception, and the special exception was granted. That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah, so.
It's permitted use with the special exception. right?
Yeah,
Correct. That works.
right, so, I think we, did we get a bunch of copies of the?
I got 3 copies, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys have those.
Yeah, so when I tried to send the email, some of them went through and some of them did not,
Two sides.
because of the size of the documents.
That's fine. We did give you some drive too, right?
Yes, I do have that.
Someone wants this. Starting, and that was maybe just a preliminary assessment of the financial year. I guess. Get that down there and sit here.
I mean, it's again, preliminary, it's probably it's never risen to have to.
Team drop.
Yeah.
I want to interrupt.
I'll shoot you my copies. It's kind of close to what we submitted to the BZA. Here's the. Here's the building. show you this. Well, here's the building, and there's access on the 20, access on the quarter building. Here's the building. I think there's 8 bays. There's a 2-story office here.
And then
upstairs.
you envision so the main entrance is up here.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and then this is a future accessory building. Here's the drainage, that they have. Here's the sewer that they have. We're applying for the, NDOT permit right now, and we just got them the bond and stuff today. For that,
I would give us time.
here's you probably want to see these. So that's the whole drainage calculation worksheet. Gentleman Drew was doing that. I've been working with Angel and Charlie Ray on that. I think they ran all the calculations and everything that they. Anybody have any questions?
Have you, so like looking at all this, like I'm looking at all the parking lot, this proposed building, everything else that's here is this drainage, so.
Yeah,
I guess my question is, I understand that future accessory building isn't necessarily there and it's just representative right now.
right. Well, everything's kind of.
I guess my question is. Do you have any idea what percentage of this lot is gonna be covered? Like, so between parking lot, buildings,
I think that might be in the drainage. Stuff somewhere. I mean, look at the 60 pages.
what's the? Dude, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's 75%, so.
I remember.
Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, except we.
So I think what I'm looking at, like, I'm just trying to catch anything that we're not, I don't want to overlook it, that if it's covering more than 75% of the lot. That in and of itself would be a problem.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I kind of checked when we went for the special exception with any variances. We may have needed additionally to the special exceptions and all the setbacks. In the ordinance or something about the front, the how much glass is on the front of the building.
Right, and that's why I was looking where your entrance was, and I was like, thank God, like, it's in the right. place
Yeah,
for that.
like we kind of designed around what the ordinance was.
Okay.
I mean, the lot coverage is something that we can double check, but.
I'm just trying to look for anything that might down the road, thing and stuff, and I don't wanna put you in a spot where things look good, and then on like. The final step, be like, hey, you know, you're covering 85% of the lot. And
Yeah.
I just want to foresee any problems to try and
Yeah.
streamline this.
No, I was pretty sure. We kind of went through the plant requirement, for the landscaping, and that was, detailed out on some landscaping plans we submitted. So I think all the other,
I mean, it's hard to see, I mean, obviously it's black and white too, so I mean, there might be more. Green space on here than I'm actually noticing, so. Yeah, and the other thing, I guess, with that is the future accessory building, I assume that is something that you guys are. Would be coming back for at a later date then.
right, yeah, it's not
So-
that he's gonna do on his like first go around this.
Because that's obviously a big portion of that, so even if that kicked that to where then it created. More than, so let's say that there was, if it needed a variance, I think that variance would need to be obtained when that building went up.
Right,
Because that building might be the difference of making 75 or not.
yeah, no, I feel it.
So if that was the case, then it might just be noted at that point, like, hey, you're good now, but if you put in a building. That big, then you might need to be able to obtain a variance. I'm not saying you would, maybe this is all perfect. You just,
No, I'm with you.
So a lot going on, which is awesome, but.
As far as, on the design and all the code requirements for the use and everything, Angelica and Charlie over there at Newman Group, they kind of like checked all the codes with the plans, and they submitted everything downstate, so I don't know if we've gotten the release back yet or whatnot, but.
I think you're awful optimistic. Everybody else been waiting how many months for downstate?
Well, I had heard one of the other previous ones that there might have been something else holding up one of the people
Well,
who
that-
applied for it.
That one we just did, but.
It wasn't necessarily their fault.
I think downstate, I think they have 10 days to review a set of plans, and if something's hung up on it, they'll bump you back another 10 days until you get revisions and stuff, so.
Okay.
I don't know, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens, but. Yeah, if there's some changes that need to be made, we could always send addendum sets down there.
So I know this is very early on, but is there anything jumping out at you that we're missing that we need? I mean, I get that it all needs to be reviewed and there's a lot to it. But I guess my question is there anything that jumps out to you that we need and don't have?
Well, if they're working with NDOT to get a permit, and that's good, they're in the process of that. Got the drainage calcs. I would say, I mean, it may say in the drainage calcs that coverage, but I could see that could be a note that we can add it on there, like what the lot coverage is. I get what you're saying about the future accessory building, that could be separate, that might need a variance depending, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like where the future accessory building is going now is all grass.
Yeah.
Oh, to me, that makes it,
It's-
there's the building, parking lot, grass.
Yeah.
And then, to me, that kind of looks like you might be good. As it stands, that's just my eyeballs kind of doing an estimate, looks like they might be good on the 75%, but yeah, that might be something that we ask. Is to supply the lot coverage, and then. You mentioned, oh no, now I see the cemetery, no, I mean, obviously, if we need time to review it, but we're asking for large items, is there anything that's jumping out at me?
Right, anything that we need to be requesting from them
Right.
is obvious, I guess. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be a little thing that probably ends up.
But, so Michelle, you said that you have a thumb drive, because I'm just thinking about, like you mentioned, there was landscaping plans that you've turned in, like. If we could, make sure we have all that
Yeah,
information, so I can get with you tomorrow.
okay,
Yeah, we went through, we went to the building department and kind of like picked up this checklist, and this was kind of on there, and, there was like 25 items or something on there, so we kind of just went through and said where all that kind of stuff was. That's kind of our
Okay,
copy, so like, some of them was like. The legal description, it's on the plans, it was asking about the state design release on there, if we had that yet. I think that was like towards number 20 something. I think a copy of that was submitted with, I kind of like to have that.
yeah, I
copy.
was gonna ask.
Yeah, that was submitted in that thumb drive, and I think all dropped off, talked about. Lot dimension, which way is it facing? Adjacent buildings, right of ways. There's a little narrative on there. you know, traffic patterns, a lot of the traffic stuff is in the. Is in the NDOT application for the driveway, which was on that thumb drive. So.
Yeah, I guess I would say that I'm not, nothing is jumping into my brain that's missing right now.
Okay.
No large item.
Yes.
Yeah, I may think of something later, but I'm not thinking of anything right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hold you to it or anything, I just figured that if there was anything known that.
No, it is, you know, copy, it says design release. With one of the requirements on here issued by state of Indiana. Fire and Building Services Department, so like. Department of Homeland Security is where you submit the plans downstate, so obviously we don't have that. Design release yet, which we've already discussed. It says the town may want, you know, additional studies of, you know, that kind of stuff. All the subcontractors, is asking for a list of names. We just filled out a building permit and dropped it off, but they wouldn't take it, you know, on the building permit, it has a list of the subcontractors that you're gonna be using. And they said, no, we don't need that, we're like, pretty sure number 19 says that you guys do want that, so that's available for your guys's. You know, we could, I think that was probably on the contract too, there's probably, you know, 15 or something there.
So do we think as a whole that this might be something that we would have reviewed before the next meeting?
Yeah, I can say from our end, I think that we have time, we'll have time
Okay,
prior to the next meeting. To review it. Now, if we have any comments that need, you know, something. I don't know how that timing will fall.
Right.
It may be that something we're discussing in the next meeting, but our first review, which again, this looks like a good set of plans, you know. Just kind of looking at the thoroughness and everything, the checklist that you said you've gone through. But yeah, we'll have our review comments prior to the next meeting.
I don't know if it's possible to get those, I mean, in the past, in other municipalities I've worked with, the reviewing engineer, whoever reviews the plans. Kind of works with our engineer and kind of sends out an email, hey, I've seen this, and this, you know. A lot of times, you know, maybe it's somewhere where you didn't see it or they have it and we haven't gotten it to you, but I think we supplied everything, and maybe I just get your email and send you kind of. I mean, things kind of get lost, seem to get lost in La La Land anymore, with like emails and stuff, and when there's a bunch of other people, kind of attached to stuff, so if you have questions when you're reviewing, it's probably in there somewhere. So,
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And we've done that in the past, where we've kind of like worked with the engineer, so I don't know if we do that. We'll just have to, you know, keep a good record so that you're kind of looped in on it, but it could be, like you said, if there's a clarification, something I didn't see, I can reach out. I'm perfectly open to doing that too.
Yeah, and that's something that, you know, that we went through that checklist real thorough and everything is on there. If it wasn't on there, you know, like a copy of the NDOT application, obviously that's something we don't have. Yeah, you know, the guy who bought the bonds for that NDOT needs to, for Route 20 today, so.
yeah, I mean, I don't have any issue with that, I just want to know that if we identify any issues that, and then how they're potentially corrected.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That we're all up to speed, if somebody sees something, then they know that it's already been addressed. So. And we got anything else?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The asphalt shavings that you put on the lot, is that a acceptable landfill that you use all the time, or did you check with somebody before you? I mean, it already has drainage problems there.
I mean, I think that.
Are you gonna build right on, I'm sorry, are you gonna build right on top of those?
No, those are, you know, those are where the parking lot's going, I mean, asphalt grindings. is-
Oh, that's just the parking.
Yeah, I mean, asphalt
Okay.
grindings are. you know, it's stone and asphalt, like.
So you're not gonna build on the part where the shavings are?
No, where those essentially are, yeah, and before I brought those, I think I came in like a Friday at like 10 o'clock to the building department to try to get like. An excavation permit or to ask someone, you know, hey, you know, is this okay before I do it? I sent some emails off, I think I emailed.
Yeah.
You, and then I didn't get a response till the following Thursday, he called and said, hey, what's going on? I was like, you know, I had an opportunity. To get some asphalt grindings, you know, at a good price and.
Yeah.
You know, since we've had heavy rains in the past 2 weeks. And I haven't seen any significant flooding, you know, in that area. I mean, that's kind of a lower spot. You know, we will address the drainage.
Yeah, and it's almost, yeah.
With the culvert there. I mean, now with the building not being there, obviously, if there is any water, it's just sitting on the lot, you know.
Okay.
Those ditches kind of need to be cleaned up and maintained a little bit in that area anyways, where that lot is, you know, back to the corner. There's a massive tree, which is something that we're gonna wanna take down. I don't know if the building department requires a permit to take down trees or some big logs sitting along that fence line that are at the neighboring parcel. So
Okay.
we're gonna haul out some of that debris. I think the previous owner did some grading on that lot when he bought it. Maybe a little bit of clearing, and we plan on doing the same, you know, there's some.
Well, before you leave, I've got the information you're gonna need to do what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, well, that'd be great, yeah.
So, okay, I wasn't clear about what the asphalt shavings were doing there.
Yeah,
But now that I know it's just a parking lot, that's different.
yeah, no, under the building pad, we'll put sand. You know, compactable material, that's all things are, we roll them in there fine, there's only just a couple inches of.
Okay.
Grindings or any, it's like there's a couple of miles, obviously, but. You can already see the grass growing through it a little bit, it's just. A little easier just to pull in there and turn around if we got a piece of equipment or something. So.
Okay.
When do we have an idea? I guess my only question is, when do we have an idea when that ditch will be addressed?
I mean, that's a lot of that's the town's ditch down Old Port Road.
Right, so but did we fill in our ditch with asphalt paving? So anything from the east, if it's running west. As it flows, I guess my question is,
You know, that,
if it runs, it's gonna go east to west, right? Like it's gonna. Yeah, that's what I was getting at, is that I understand, like, I mean, because at some point we had ditches now blocked, so.
I mean, I'm kind of looking at the snowfall survey here of the plan and along that ditch, you know, is 634 and in the center of the property, this is a contour line at 634. So it's not really a defined ditch, you know, it's kind of, it's not really, you see the contour, are you looking at the contours?
Were you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing like.
It's not, that's what it's.
Like a 630, oh, I see the 630. Yeah. 630.
So like stormwater drainage.
Yes.
So he's saying there's catch basins on that side of the street at certain points. So if that's blocked or prohibited and that doesn't allow that, I mean, I guess that'd be something I'd have to forward to our stormwater board.
Yeah.
But I would guess that they probably wouldn't be ecstatic that there's not a culvert.
If you
in this.
walk,
And that's why I was getting like, just trying to get an idea of when this would be addressed, because I mean, if winter time comes, I'll tell you, it's gonna be a freaking nightmare. Because if it freezes over that roadway and we start having crashes or something. It's gonna be just hard stuff. Here's old.
Yeah, it's gonna have.
Yeah.
You know, but they have a proposal, which will be there,
And I think
obviously, they're
tonight-
gonna build up over that. But here's this contour line,
No,
it's
it's-
634,
Right.
this contour line is 634 also.
Oh, there.
Right, you know, so like, if the water,
And
I guess my concern is everybody needs to do, like, if at some point it's that it either
Salt Creek.
isn't allowed to drain or it overruns the roadway. then I guess that's when,
Well, yeah, but
because
just,
some of those ditches are 6, 8 feet deep, I mean, they're
well,
deep.
this one's not very deep. This one is 634, which is, the ditch is, what we're calling the ditch is higher than the lot. Here's a contour right here.
Right, but if we fill in the ditch. Obviously, no water is gonna run through it, correct? I mean, so
Well,
our storms are like our catch basins for our stormwater system. Obviously aren't gonna be affected then, yeah?
Yeah, but as the point out, this water is gonna run into the center of the slot. It's not really, the ditch is the same height as the lot.
Okay.
That contour is 634, but to answer your question,
So the bottom of the ditch is the same height as your lot.
is a lot, yeah, so it doesn't, I mean, that lot has kind of stayed wet. You know, prior to him building it for a long time, so. But to answer your question, I can go out there and pull a little, pull back down to the virgin ground, which would then do the same thing. That it was doing prior, it's just gonna sit on that lot. Because it's not like a pronounced ditch, so to say.
Walk your property and see if there's not any catch basins.
There is.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
one real close to that, to those asphalt seams,
Yeah,
To the east of it or to the west?
On Old Porter, I don't remember.
to the east side. To the
Okay.
east side, but it's got a big tree on it, like,
Yeah.
the water isn't going this way because it needs maintenance, like. There's vegetation growing in the ditch.
You need a motion, Greg, to come back next month.
So I don't think it's gonna take the,
Okay,
I mean, I think we just keep it on the agenda,
okay.
just in case you need to actually, like. There may not be. Anything else pertinent next month, I mean, there may be something that Jeanette comes up with and maybe it needs to be addressed somehow. So if that's something, if everything's all good to go, then great, yeah, we're glad to see you back here next month. But if, let's say, something comes up and you need to address it, and you can't have that document prepared in time, then I guess we have to.
Well, and that's what would be good if the engineer is in contact with either myself or the other engineer, so if something does come up and there is documentation that you guys.
So I agree, that's why I'd rather they work together, because.
Because I don't want this to be like an 8 month, I don't want to be coming here for the next 8 times in the next 8 months, so. Usually if there's something that stands out, or if there's any suggestions that people have here, we're open to it, I think a lot of those things. I think the building meets all the other criteria that in the ordinance,
Yeah, I mean, other than that, I think the biggest thing is just giving a chance to review, I mean, there's obviously a lot of documents.
Yeah, there was, just to kind of keep everybody up to speed, there was some discussion about not wanting access on Old Porter Road. The gentleman does, the biggest vehicle he works on is an F-250, so it's well under the weight limit or whatever that. I think that road's at 16,000 pounds or 18,000 pounds, like he's.
It's a 8-ton weight on it, so,
Yeah.
I mean, as long as your record and stuff, or I would say generally using us, I would 20, I'm looking at today.
Right, yeah, and Mr. Thurston, he was in business down on 149. He was running
No, he kept this place really nice, it was very.
yeah, across from the BMX track. I mean, he's a tenant of mine now in Chesterton. He's been there for 5 years. I almost hate to see him leave, but I like to see him kind of get his own shop, which is kind of what his kind of end goal is, and I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about him, that the guys keep the toilet seats clean, like that stuff. I don't have people complain, it's just little things when it comes down to that, so. I mean, I can assure you that you keep it nicer than the auto shop next door and the one across the street, so. He likes to keep his stuff nice and, he doesn't have a car. I've never complained about him having a car sitting out there for X amount of days with the wheels off and oil dripping all over the place. I mean, he gets a car and he does what he needs to do and he, hopefully the people can pick their car up and less than 3 days or something, whatever it is. I mean, through COVID, like, some of the supply chain on parts got real bad. And, he was waiting on parts and fighting parts, but it was never an issue with me, and he's been with me for 5 years, so. Or rented from me for 5 years. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, you guys have my phone number, email, whatever, and if there's documents that we need sooner than later.
I would say the only other thing, like, I know Janet hasn't looked at everything yet, but I would say. It's fine if the engineers are gonna work together, but at the same time, if the. I don't know, if it's an in-dot permit or it's an in-dot what,
The driveway permit,
yeah,
yeah,
so the in-dot permit, if you will, if that's. Received, I think that other than just the engineer, I think that information also needs to be passed along to the town. So we know it's there, and then I guess the commercial design release, is that what it is?
the state design release.
Yeah, the state design release, to know that you have it, I mean, because like next month, we can look at it and say. All right, well, do you have everything in place to even pass it as a formal site plan review? Well, if we don't have those documents, I mean, it's passing something that. We don't know if it's even. Good.
Well, I mean,
So if you have that stuff though, then yeah, great.
yeah, no, and it's, and like, it's kind of, you're kind of juggling a few different balls here, because, okay, so say you guys. One thing you asked for is a state design release in your plan commission packet. But then, okay, so we have the state design release and for whatever reason, it gets denied at the plan commission, and we're back to the drawing board. You see what I'm saying?
Right, but from my perspective, I'm paying an engineer to review a plan that may not. Get to move forward. Right, so if your state design release gets denied. And the town is paying our engineers to look at this stuff and it gets scrapped. So look at it from our point of view too, that doesn't help with anyone either.
Right, that's why it's kind of like going to the dice table sometimes, and you don't know,
Right,
so that's just.
I mean, so there's the point where it's like, we'll only go so far, without having all the documents, but at the same time, we'll work with you to say, hey. Yeah, if we see something that's a huge flaw that wouldn't work for us, we want to be able to let you know right away.
Yeah, and the state, as far as the design release, the biggest thing they look at, they don't care about any of the town ordinances. They're kind of more for like fire and public safety. And, that's kind of the main thing. They'll hold up a plan because you don't have an exit sign at a doorway or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where they're not too, the drainage is kind of irrelevant to them downstate, where it's important to you guys. So, I mean, obviously, it's something we've said, downstate, they look at fire, the fire codes, all that kind of stuff. So anyways. All right, well, is there anything else you guys need from me? I'll get that paperwork from you too.
I don't believe so. I think the only thing we need to do is make sure we keep on the agenda. That way, assuming that everything rolls through, that,
Yeah,
you don't have to be asked to be placed back on here.
and only the last thing I ask is if there is things that we need, just bullet point us, hey, we need this, and this, rather than these 5 things at 5 different times. It just really expands the, what I'm talking about, so. That's all that we ask for, is just to call it a streamlined review, not, that kind of stuff, so. All right,
Yeah,
all right, cool, thanks. Did you have your card then?
I don't,
No,
if
okay,
you
I'll get it.
I'll- forward emails or something.
All right, so, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys, have a good night.
thank you. The only other thing was whole business was site plan review process, which we're obviously keep going through. But you mentioned a list of those site plan and stuff. Did he obtain that from? Okay. Because Cause I think what kind of came up was, there was discussion on. A preliminary site plan and a formal site plan, and what the differences are. Is there anything any light you can shed on that?
Did you discuss that at the last meeting? Cause I know you were going over like your flow chart, right? I mean. I'm
So we had that because the issue was like, so this is what we're having a problem with. So let's say these people, they go to. BZA. And they obtain their variance. So. But now, like from a town perspective. The question becomes, whose responsibility was it to notify them where they go next? Cause I guess for them, how do they know our process? Like, it's gotta be, at some point, the town has to do something to. Kind of guide these people, and that was kind of where we were going with this flow chart, at least so that they can have a consistent direction. Cause right now, I don't know how they ended up here. I think that was after the discussion they had when they were reaching out to the building department. So I guess, I don't know if it's. Just gonna be on the secretary or if it's each individual board needs to direct them, all right, from this point. You probably need to be reaching out to the plan commission for a site plan review, or like if they came here and we looked at their site plan, and we're like. Yeah, no, it's no good. And I just told them it was no good and they left here. I think that the direction would probably be, hey, you're trying to. It looks like you're encroaching on a setback that doesn't work, and you're gonna need to go to the BZA, and these are the few things that we saw. But you're gonna need to be seen by the BZA. If we don't tell them that, they're kind of. Sitting here and turning into 18-month processes and stuff. But I guess my question is, our town code references a preliminary site plan review and then a formal site plan review. And. I guess my question is, what's the difference?
Well, I would think that at least one difference, perhaps, I'm just brainstorming here, that like, they did all these drainage counts. Well, this takes time, obviously, a lot of paper, so you wouldn't want to have that right, if you had two separate reviews, preliminary and formal, these would be needed for the formal, whereas for the preliminary might be,
Just.
a concept plan, like, here's the setbacks, here's our lot coverage.
Right,
This is what we think, how many parking spaces can we get in here? And then again, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but then you're gonna dial it down to maybe, maybe the grades weren't, I don't know, maybe they haven't done the survey yet. Maybe they didn't actually pay for the topographic, again, I'm just brainstorming.
right,
Maybe they haven't paid for the topographic survey yet because it's I'm just gonna use the term concept plan, like,
right,
does this fit within your parameters? Would you allow this? It's items like that I think you could potentially separate out some engineering items that could be saved until the next step. But again, that's just me kind of talking.
so without making this overly difficult, let's say for your perspective. Is there a way for you to pick out a few things that you said, hey, you know what? If I had somebody coming in for a preliminary, like, hey, is this a feasible plan? Like the minimum standards that you would say you would need, like, as far as like. Obviously, you're talking about drainage stuff that you wouldn't necessarily have to have for a preliminary. I understand that. You don't want to make them do these huge plans and you just be able to be like, yeah, no, that doesn't work.
Right, yeah.
But is it just? Like looking at something like this, because I mean, you can get the gist of what they're doing here.
Right, yeah. I would say yes, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just kind of like in agreement because, they could show a pond and its size could be plus or minus,
Right.
based on the drainage counts. They could I say very easily, but I would say very easily they could locate their items on the site and start talking about, this is how we want to lay it out, and But you brought up a good point about setbacks, right? Like, 'cause that would be something that they could possibly mess up, or the lot coverage.
Right.
And it'd be good to know that sooner than later.
Well, because I mean, if we can identify those problems, so like, that was part of the flow chart, one of the issues, like Michelle brought up, she's like, well. They have to go to the BZA and potentially have to go back to the BZA again, and I'm like, yeah, but it's unfortunate, but otherwise, if you need a use variance. You don't want to spend money drawing up plans if you're not even gonna be allowed to put that building there for that use, so it's like, well, you don't want them to waste their time about worrying about a setback. For something that we're gonna tell them no anyways.
Right, yeah.
So it comes down to money. I mean, it's like, well, do you really wanna spend a bunch of money designing and going through all these processes?
Mhm.
So that you can go to and save 30 or 60 days. Otherwise, I guess you gotta go to the BZA twice. I mean, it's. Maybe, you know, I mean, if they meet everything, then no, this place only had to go there to be able to get their special exception.
Right.
But. Okay,
I think there's ways to separate out the level of intensity that they would need for those two things.
and I think that's what the town has to, like, it has to be figured out, like. So that we know what, hey, we're doing a preliminary site plan, like what we need. Cause we also don't need to overburden, if it's just a preliminary site plan, we also don't need to overburden you with information either, if it's. You're just sorting through stuff that may not even apply yet,
Right, yeah, I agree.
but. It's also trying to get these people earlier on in the process. Here for the preliminary site plan as opposed to. I mean, like, he's already applied for state design releases and things like that, and this is the first time he's been in here.
So he hadn't jumped the gun. Oh, he-
Yeah, or we were late to getting him to the party. I don't know which one on that your split hairs.
Right,
I just think that they're, like, moving forward, we gotta be on top of this a little bit better, just so that. We don't. Make it harder for people than what it needs to be. So. And then just a common direction throughout the town, so. Alright, I guess we just gotta work on. Figuring that out, so if we put together like a proposed list. That'd be something that you guys might be able to help bring
Sure.
in with,
yeah,
or say, hey. What about adding this, or this, you know, just little things that might help. But right now, like, Michelle, do you have any idea what you're supposed to tell them for a preliminary site plan, what they need to bring?
What triggers the site plan review? I mean, what specifically? Triggers it off the top of my head, that what ran through it.
I think it's just a commercial build
Yeah, I think
Anything
like new
commercial.
commercial, yeah.
I think so too.
and,
Well, and
or a,
what starts it off is they do the new business determination form.
That's what I was after, okay.
And then once they do that, then it's determined what they have to do after that.
you need to get one of our pretty flow charts.
I saw it, yes, but that's what I was after.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause only Tony was helping me with that, and one of the things that. We were gonna try and put a timeline together with that too, that, you know, people can get an idea of potentially, I mean, they come in with unrealistic expectations and. Say, Chuck, hey, I'm gonna start this project next month, and it's like, dude, you're 6 months away. Like, depending on what steps they have, I mean, they can't just expect him to be able to get something done. When there's a process that has to be followed, and if. Either we're not doing it, or if it's them not doing it, I mean, you can't speed it up that fast. So, and I think that part of the problem is. Just, and it's nothing to do with Chuck whatsoever, it's. Along the way, certain things, some certain balls got dropped because people didn't know what. Who was supposed to be doing and, or telling anybody, and. The other people, like, they didn't reach out to ask either. So. I don't know if they assumed that certain people were working on stuff or something, I don't know. But now we got a bunch of stuff that's gonna be coming here really fast, because. I assume. Cause after this, we're gonna have to reach out to Luke too to find out where their project is. Maybe they don't have a site plan prepared yet, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about their site plan, but I think,
Cause they obtained a variance, yes,
yes, but I think. They already applied for the one in Chesterton, and I think it's almost identical. The buildings and everything else, so it's,
yeah,
You know,
I just-
it's a, for them, it's like a cookie cutter storage unit deal.
And I could see how you could group it and do it all in one site plan, it just might be something where it's like, if Jeanette sees something that's so obvious right now. She might be able to save them time by saying, hey, take this future building out of here because you're not gonna meet whatever. And then if you wanna get a variance for that later or something, fine,
I
But-
actually was thinking that.
Yeah.
How did you know? But, I mean, I just.
I was just looking at it and I'm like, well, if they don't meet the 75%, if you just take that out.
Right.
They don't need to get a variance for a building they're not building right now.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how it works, but I mean, that's a BCA.
But even
plan.
from that, they could shrink their building down if they had to,
Yeah, or, I mean, because they might look at all this and they may need to narrow something up, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think if you take that future building away, I think they're probably there without a problem. I mean, just looking at it.
Look, I do think along through there, the drainage calculations better be pretty well checked, because that, if you go down through there, that's all wet down through there, if you walk down Old Border Road at all.
Do you know, has Bill or anybody from Stormwater been notified anything about this ditch filling in thing?
Bill's aware of the asphalt shavings being there. Now, I don't know if he went out and looked and.
Okay.
You know,
Can we just send a notification to the stormwater board of this potential problem for them to look at? And I think I would just add that the property owners intend on putting a culvert in, but it's not in place. But we do want to make sure that there's no significant issues that develop because of it. Just because he says it's not a problem, I'm not comfortable just calling it as a dead issue. If the stormwater board says it's okay, then that's cool for them. It's not my decision to make though. Yeah,
Reasonable.
anything else? Do the order, any other business? I would entertain a motion.
I'm making a motion to adjourn.
A motion and a second, discussion. Roll call, Michelle.
Travis Dunlap,
Yes.
Aaron Eckbeck.
Yeah.
Bernie Potter,
Yes.
Jeremy McCarthy.
Yeah.
That was nice.